Recently, a lot of people have been talking about time-rending Morganite, and I've gotta say this. I really like this card. This card has a very wild effect, enabling you to draw 2 cards during your normal draw phase, and also giving you an extra normal summon. But with the downside that you cannot use monster effects from your hand. I really like this card because it kinda bends the rules that are established. Draw phase, now you draw 2. Your 1 normal summon per turn, now you have 2. But of course the big drawback is what makes this card kinda bad for a lot of decks, since almost everyone relies on monster effects from the hand, so it balances out. But I do wish they printed more cards like this. Cards with very wild effects. I feel that would make the game a bit more interesting, especially for casual players, since, understandably so, they cannot print very wild effects if they're kinda broken. It would be like the Wild West, with every card being too good. The competitive scene would be in shambles. The kinds of cards I would like to see printed more often are cards like Convulsion of Nature or Inferno Tempest, and this might be a very bad example since it is banned, but last turn. don't crucify me. These cards have very wild effects that are pretty game breaking. Let's take for example Inferno Tempest. This card, for the cost of 3000 battle damage that you take from your opponent, you banish every monster from your deck and his deck and from both player graveyard. Since it is very situational with 3000 damage needed, it kinda balances out the fact that you banish everything and both players can rely on monsters on the field or their hand and their spell and trap cards. Convulsion of Nature, its effect is just to put the deck upside down. So it is a unique effect, not one to really win you the game, but this kind of unique effect is very fun to play around with, since there are cards that can combo with it, especially cards that declare a card from the top of your deck. Since you already know what it is, with Convulsion of Nature, it can combo off pretty well. Now I've also mentioned last turn, but it is more because of its unique effect rather than its actual effect. I seriously doubt anyone wants last turn to return. But it is admittedly an interesting card, and that's what I would like to see more in the game. More interesting and unique kinds of effects that don't specifically belong to an archetype. Now I don't know how feasible it is actually, since they need to keep the game balanced, otherwise they're just gonna ban the cards. So unless you're casually playing with your friends in a traditional format, then you won't be able to use those cards. So if they're able to create multiple cards with unique effects that are balanced, I feel like it would make the game a bit more interesting. Now of course there's always that one player that can find a way to FTK with a card, so that's why we need some drawbacks or heavy restrictions, or cards that are very situational. But the joy of the game is also pulling off some pretty good combos, so finding out combos with cards with unique effects will also make the game a lot more interesting. And I think we can all agree that we all want the game to keep on being interesting for new players, for casual players, and competitive players. So thanks for watching and let me know. Do you agree? What kind of cards do you want to see more in the game?